Good Saturday, joyous Saturday, the Saturday of light, the great and holy Saturday, Hallelujah Saturday, the Saturday of glory. For more than 2,000 years, the day before Easter Sunday has gone by these names, and nobody knew why until yesterday, when Barry Robson's Wraith Rovers crashed the party at a packed Falkirk Stadium. The Rovers came from a goal down with 2 minutes to play to win by 3-1, their first win after going behind in a league game since beating Partick Thistle 4-3 499 days ago. Calvin Miller's 17th minute goal had put Falkirk ahead, and the host looked comfortable. But 3 minutes of madness around the hour mark saw Sean Mackie sent off, and that proved to be the turning point as incessant pressure from the Rovers paid off, with late goals from Aidan Marsh, Paul Hanlon, and Dylan Easton, emptying all but one half stand and pushing the Rovers up onto level points with Partick Thistle in the race for 4th place. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and joining me for an Easter feast this evening, we've got Alan Douglas Munn. First of all, how are you, Alan?
I'm really, really good, mate. Yeah, thoroughly looking forward to this. On the way out of the stand yesterday, a lady came up to me and said, "I'm really looking forward to the podcast this week." I was like, "I'm really looking forward to doing it if my voice has recovered by then." It's just about there. I shall fight through it.
That was my concern yesterday as well. I really think I might have lost my voice. But hopefully, at this point, it seems to be holding out. In 2 hours' time, we'll see if we're still going strong. We've also got Robbie Weir. How are you, Robbie?
Yeah, to paraphrase Sergeant Apone from James Cameron's hit 1986 sequel, Aliens, another glorious day in the kingdom. Every meal is a feast. Every paycheck a fortune. Hell, I love the kingdom.
On the kingdom.
We've got Scott Fleming as well. Happy birthday for yesterday. Scott, how are you?
Cheers, mate. Aye, well chuffed after yesterday. I mean, it couldn't have gone any better. I mean, for a while it wasn't looking great, but thankfully we managed to get the job done. But aye, it was a thoroughly enjoyable birthday in the end after the turnaround.
Good stuff. Excellent. And rounding us off for tonight, we've also got Blair Hopcroft. How was the view for the posh seats, Blair?
Oh, it was tremendous. It was a wee bit quieter in my stand towards the end of the game, but we did our best to fill the void of noise, much to the delight of the Falkirk fans around us. But no, I had a cracking day. Genuinely a brilliant day, all round.
Good stuff. A good review for the hospitality package at the Falkirk Stadium then.
It was actually genuinely, and I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk much about it, but I would recommend it. Really good. Really well done, really well put together. Food was great. Yeah, just all round. And actually, I must admit, everybody we sat and chatted to and spoke to in that, they were all really magnanimous about everything, and they were all really decent, which was quite annoying. But yeah, no, it was a thoroughly good day.
Good stuff. Excellent. This, I suspect, it's going to be a podcast of two halves, and the first is going to be much shorter than the second, because I think the game was a wee bit like that in terms of talking points, and certainly the talking points that we want to focus on. But the rules of time dictate that we do need to talk about the first half first. So, as you guys, I think quite rightly suspected, as is generally the case these days, no changes to the starting lineup. I think in terms of the shape, there's a little bit of intrigue in this, or a little bit of talking to have with it. But certainly from the beginning, it looked to me like it was back to the five, effectively, more than the four that we'd seen, at least at times, against Airdrie. But from the very beginning, Alan, I felt like there was a very clear pattern of the game, and it was very much Falkirk, their right-hand side attacking our left. I mean, to be fair, we were as well taking it pretty much up to the first goal, but is it going too far to say that that goal almost felt like it was coming based on the opening period.
Not sure it necessarily felt like it was coming, but what it did feel like is if it was coming from anywhere, it was coming down that side. It was, it's very much, as you say, kind of continuing on a little bit from last week where, Josh Mullen was getting forward an awful lot more. Which had the desired effect of keeping Sean Mackie back in his own half, which stops him from then being able to kind of overlap with Ethan Ross. And I think at that point we've probably thought Ethan Ross with his pace is probably where the danger comes. So if you don't give him someone to kind of overlap with, then you kind of cut that out. But I've seen a few people kind of mention, what it does is it kind of drags the whole defence over one maybe and leaves Lewis Stevenson really exposed. And you know what, I actually thought, on the whole, I thought Lewis Stevenson did really, really well, actually. He put in some tremendous blocks, like really, really good. He got caught. You're always going to get caught at least once against a team like, Falkirk are top of the league for a reason. They've got guys all over the pitch who can hurt you. And Calvin Miller is absolutely one of those. And if you give Calvin Miller that kind of space, he's going to get a shot away and he's going to potentially punish you. So, yeah, there was definitely that kind of pattern there that it was, as I say, I don't necessarily think it was coming, but if it was coming, it was definitely coming down that side.
It was a very early moment where Keelan Adams and Calvin Miller combined on that right-hand side. And as they overlapped, Dylan Easton and Lewis Stevenson just ran into each other.
Yeah.
And both fell over. And that felt a little bit like the kind of visual metaphor for the first 15 minutes as we kind of struggled to get used to that. And I think you're right about the other side of the park. There was very clear matchups. I'd be really interested to know how much of that was a kind of natural result of the way the game settled and how much of that John McGlynn predicted or knew about beforehand. Because, as you say, on that side, we're quite well practiced and quite content to let Josh Mullen, although he's nominally the wing back, step forward and then Doherty drops in behind him. So you've got Mullen matches up to Mackie and then Doherty is happy to then pick up Ethan Ross. And as I say, whether by accident or by design, that side was basically neutralised for the first half. And I don't know whether it's because of the way both teams set up or because McGlynn went, well, we know that's how it's going to be on that side, so let's just focus on the other wing. Blair, how did you feel about that kind of opening, that dynamic, same thing that Alan's talking about there?
Yeah, I actually agree with everything that you have said, and actually that last point, I think McGlynn was winning the tactical battle, as it were. I think he effectively figured us out in terms of the shape. So I've said a few times, I was never convinced that we were playing a back four at any point in terms of it just being a back four. Like we've talked about this sort of fluid transitioning thing that happens between the two formations, and I think we just spent more time against Airdrie in the sort of more advanced version of it than we did perhaps against Ayr. And I think that whole shuffling round and pushing one on, it does leave, I think Alan's absolutely spot on, it left Stevenson really isolated out on that left-hand side. And I felt like they targeted it right from the off because everything was focused on that side. And when it wasn't, and it was coming down the other side, it was almost like there was no desire really for Ross to try and get in behind. It was like, and that's where the goal comes from, is Ross getting the ball and just coming across. Because actually you come across one, and if you don't get shut down, you've got another man inside you, and then you've got a man on the far side who's got nobody near him. And that's exactly where the goal comes from, is that kind of coming right across the back three, as it were. And it just left us really, really exposed. And the thing is, you can't criticise Robson because it's worked really well. It completely nullified Ayr, and it nullified, for the most part, the biggest threat that we've got from Airdrie. So I mean, credit where credit's due. I mean, we're 7 games unbeaten going into yesterday. He was never going to rip up the playbook and try something totally different. Do you know what I mean? It's been working. But yeah, I think McGlynn had seen that. I think McGlynn had kind of figured that out and had an action plan for it. Although, to be fair, I think that after the goal, we changed it a little bit and it became a little bit more of a back three. Mullen wasn't quite pushing on so far. It was almost like Robson went, right, nah, it is leaving us too exposed and transferring back over. But it was a funny one. I know what you mean about was the goal coming, but I kind of agree with Allan. I don't think it felt like it was coming, but it felt like that's where it was going to come from. But it felt like a pretty level. They had more of the attack, but felt relatively comfortable until it wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
It's a really stupid thing to say, but it genuinely did. Like it was.
They didn't have loads of chances.
No.
There was the one that Scott Arfield has played through. It's a really nice pass. I think it's Calvin Miller who plays him in, and Josh Ray's out quickly and blocks that. But it just felt like they had the chance to create chances every time they got the ball onto that side.
Yeah,
and I don't know how much it's necessarily John McGlynn kind of winning the tactical battle by specifically sort of coming up with a pinpoint plan to do it, and how much of it's actually just that Falkirk are the best side personnel.
They're so well balanced. They're not left heavy or right heavy. They are genuinely well balanced. Like
in Keelan Adams and I mean yesterday Calvin Miller on that right hand side, I think that's the best attacking flank you're going to get. Certainly right hand side in the division. And I don't know if as always, it's too simplistic to say this, but it's the level I operate on. It's almost a case of like we've kind of been. I don't mean this as dismissively as it sounds, but like almost like getting away with it for the last 7 or 8 games on that left hand side, where you just go like, yeah, we've got a wing back, and nobody really drifts out in front of him, and there's not really any like plan B for that. We've effectively just gone, right, Lewis Stevenson, you are the left hand side.
Yep.
Crack on. Do your best.
And you've got Paul Hanlon in behind
brilliantly. And then Paul Hanlon obviously is very, very good at stepping in behind when he needs to. But it's not that same, is it a wing back, is it a winger and a full back that Doherty and Mullen can do? And I think what we probably needed to stop that pattern in that first half is the same thing on the left as we've got on the right, which we just don't have. And I think what would have helped from a purely defensive sense would have been either Easton or Gullen effectively being deputised onto the left wing.
Yeah.
But that would have changed how we attack completely, so I can see why he didn't do it. But I think that... Because I think that's specifically the thing we talked about last week was all about stopping Mason Hancock doing it to us from the other side. And I just don't think we've got the personnel to actually really stop a right back doing it.
No.
And so Keelan Adams, I mean, he was just there to be like the foil to Calvin Miller, and Calvin Miller was very, very good. Just I think by kind of hook or by crook, I don't feel like I've seen an awful lot of Calvin Miller. He's not the one that jumps off that team sheet to me. Compared to, I mean, particularly Ethan Ross, obviously is the one we've seen the most of, but really impressed with Calvin Miller yesterday. But I mean, we'll talk about the goal. So it is a little bit, probably a little bit annoying for Lewis Stevenson, given how much of that battle was happening in open play, that it ends up coming down his side, but it starts on the other side. It feels like that's cheating. As far as he's concerned, but Scott, it's a relatively quick throw in, I suppose, that goes to Ethan Ross. He kind of jinks past Scott Brown and then Paul Hanlon before playing it across. Calvin Miller's got plenty of time before sticking it under Josh Ray. Do you think the Rovers were just caught sleeping a little bit by that throw-in?
Yeah, I had it down in my notes that I thought that Scott Brown was caught just like a second, either not looking at the situation or just sleeping, like you say. I think if you ask Scott Brown again what he would do in that situation, obviously he would be maybe slightly a bit deeper, but also I think he might even just foul Ethan Ross, because I mean, I think where it is like that he's kind of going shoulder to shoulder with Ethan Ross, that would have to be some hit at a free kick to be going in. Like I think I would almost have said that I'd have just fouled Ethan Ross. I mean, you don't need to foul him that hard to take him to the ground because he just falls over anyway. But
in his direction, yeah.
I was actually surprised that Ethan Ross didn't go down when he did go shoulder to shoulder one. But fair play that he stood on his feet. But and then when you see Calvin Miller receive the ball and he's like right on that sort of edge of the box. At first, I thought he might have actually taken a shot quite early to sort of curl it, like an Aidan Connolly sort of finesse shot into the far corner, but he kind of just stood, waited, and realised that Stevenson had quite a bit of distance to come towards him. And yeah, we've been discussing it there already, but maybe we were just a tad too narrow there, and it allowed Miller to just jink inside and come in to take the shot. I'm still undecided whether Ray should be doing better. Like, it's a decent enough hit and it's gone through his legs, so on camera it doesn't look good for the goalie. But I think he's just hit it with enough power that it's probably just caught the keeper out slightly. But and yeah, other than that, I think Ray proved in the game that he was good enough yesterday. I mean, he made that save that you've already mentioned with Arfield. He also had one in the second half, which really kept us in the game at 1-0. But I wouldn't be putting too much blame on him for that. And plus the fact that he's been really solid for us since he's came in. But no, I think we're just that little bit narrow. And as I say, I potentially would have been wanting Scott Brown again just to, if Ethan Ross is going to get away from him, just foul him. And it wouldn't have been a booking or anything. It would just have been a foul, free kick. And as I say, it would have been some hit if they were scoring for there.
Yeah, I think it starts off, Ethan Ross is standing with Josh Mullen, and Mullen hands him off to Scott Brown at the point that he's running away, and it's just that slight delay that gives him the space. But it's I mean, we see Lewis Vaughan do it constantly, and will do again before the end of this game. But a lot of credit to Ethan Ross, the way that he does, as you say, just kind of skips by those, because absolutely he could have taken a free kick, probably from either of them, but gets the benefit of staying on his feet at that time. Robbie, anything you want to add in the goal, particularly around about that? What Scott says about the goalkeeper? Harsh to criticise?
I mean, I feel like he might have been open to a bit of criticism regarding it. It is kind of right at him, so you've got to sort of factor that in. But yeah, I think that Falkirk started the game really, really well. Just in terms of they came out and they pressed us like incredibly highly compared to like what they've done previously before. I feel like McGlynn was almost playing kind of 4D chess with the way that they've gone in, and first time round we outpress them in the game in the Scottish Cup, and then second time round they play us the week after and they go high balls, and this time they're trying a high press. Really reap the dividends. We were obviously misplacing passes, and again that's where just the sort of throwing comes in. And yeah, with Josh Ray, I do wonder about it, just in terms of whether he maybe could have done better. But I mean, look, Falkirk, they were in the ascendancy at that point. What was really interesting, and Jim picked up on this in the Rafe TV sort of commentary, if you watch the full match replay, he does sort of straight away calls out the fact that Falkirk set off immediately after they've scored. I'm not sure whether that was by design or whether it was by sort of just sheer coincidence, but they really stepped off us after they scored, which let us have a little spell where we were sort of a bit more comfortable in possession. But really, during that first half, we didn't have much to shout about other than a couple of sort of half opportunities which sort of went by their near post.
Yeah, I think both of these chances, though, really, and listen, this is a very obvious point to make, but really show the value of Lewis Vaughan and just how good he is. Because, I mean, the first one, now to be fair, I don't know how much credit he gets for the eventual, how close it ends up to being a goal, but the way that he kind of skips past the two in the midfield. I just don't think there's very many of the forwards we've used this season. Let's put it that way.
It's the
Who would
little.
have done the same.
I think it's Jim Clark picks up on it again later in the second half. It's the little ball roll he does every time.
Yeah.
And it's when he starts doing that, you go, oh, Vaughan's back. Like, that's when he's confident and ready to go. And he did it a few times in the second half as well. But once, if he's got somebody in front of him and he just starts ball rolling it from side to side, you know that he's like, right, I've got you and I'm taking you on now.
Yeah. He drags the whole play, though, away from Josh Mullen. And that's what we've been sorely missing, is not just somebody who'll carry the ball, but who'll create space for other people to kind of feed into. So he picks up the ball pretty much on the halfway line and at right wing back effectively, and just runs kind of diagonally towards goal, but just drags everybody with him, and then just plays a really simple pass out to Josh Mullen, who's got acres of space to put in a good ball, and does, to be fair. I mean, I think Jamie Gullen, I don't know how he thinks he's going to score from inside the post. I never really understand that run that players make, where they run closer to the cross than the goal is. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
But that's, I mean, the one where he goes by the two, and then Keelan Adams just like, it's like me playing fives, where like the ball gets close enough to me that I'm like, I can touch this, and just launches it, and has Hogarth scrambling. Like, Cody David's not in that. Put it that way.
No, he's definitely not.
You know, for the best will in the world, and that, as I say, if that ends up in a goal, that is a freak occurrence. But just moving the ball at the park, and that carrying the ball, keeping possession, and then the one after that, where he's played through, and he's on his left foot, and you can tell, like, we all know Lewis Vaughan well enough that he's not kind of naturally 2-foot. You know, he won't happily take it on his left foot if he can put it onto his right. But at the same time, and with that chance, when he's played through, he's not in two minds about it at all. And a really decent shot away. It's a very good save from Hogarth. And then Sean Mackie has to be very sharp to put it out for the corner, because Josh Mullen is very, very close to putting that in.
Yeah.
And if you think back to last time we were at Hamilton, and it was Vaughan making almost exactly that same run, and that time he went slightly wide and he cut it back. But again, talked about it a lot over the course of this season. Like, just the value of forwards who get shots away, get touches in the box. Like, Lewis Vaughan hasn't scored a goal yet since he came back from that injury, but I think 3 assists. And he could have easily had a 4th in there as well. Like, it just, the difference he makes is very, very stark. And just, obviously delighted that it's back.
It was a game that was far more closer to his contribution at Capello compared to it was the one last week, obviously. I know that there's been a lot made of, I'm coming back from injury, really wants to get a goal. We can all see that. But yeah, the as you say, rightfully, the overall, what he brings to the team and just the ability to move us further up the pitch is so hard to place a value on in terms of that.
Absolutely. Just the overall, I think he raises the capacity of the whole team. Like, he makes, basically makes the whole team better by his presence. Again, compared to a lot of the guys that we've had, and a lot of the other guys that we've played have had their own particular skills and done certain things differently. But overall, I mean, his contribution is...
there's technical things he does that there's nobody else in that squad could do. They just couldn't. They would probably not even think about it, but even if they wanted to, they don't have the technical ability to do what he does with the football, and in terms of the way he controls it and runs with it and just keeps possession and gives people a chance to make runs and do things. He's just a really, really good footballer.
It's the presence
he would be nowhere
as well.
near our level if it wasn't for 4 stupid bloody injuries.
But because I think some of the stuff, it's almost a case of some of the things he does, there are other players that we've had who could do it if you asked them to. But it's how quickly... The one I'm thinking of is the goalie scores in the derby where the ball drops to him right in front of Lee Robinson, and he just dinks it over him before he puts it in the goal.
It was
Fawn Williams.
Fawn Williams.
Sorry,
Williams,
Lee
yeah.
Robinson. Lee Robinson played for us.
In a derby where Lewis Vaughan scored a hat trick.
Yeah, he was in the hat-trick game.
I'm mixing up my Lewis Vaughan derby moments. There are so many.
There are so many.
And they're all wonderful.
But that presence of mind to do it, I think, is the main thing. Obviously, we'll come on to it when we get to the penalty. He's clearly, as you say, Robbie, he's desperate to get a goal. His goals will come.
Yes.
There's just literally no doubt about it whatsoever. His goals will come along. So that kind of takes us up to half-time. Really, because after that, we had those couple of chances. Falkirk, I thought, still looked the more likely without really creating too much. I think other than maybe a snapshot that was right at him, I don't think Josh Ray had another save to make. Blair, when it got to half-time, were you looking for changes? Were you minding? Were you kind of hoping to see some kind of shift?
I must admit, I wasn't really, just from the sense that they'd effectively gone one up with. I personally thought the goalie should have done a lot better for the goal. So I was kind of putting it down to, they've never really exposed us. They've never really kind of properly carved us open to the point where it's a home and hosed kind of goal. And we were still in the tie. And I thought the longer the game goes on, the more chance we've got of coming back into it. But it kind of did feel like one of those games where they were comfortable, they were kind of controlling the game enough that we were probably going to have very little in terms of chances, but they could come. And when you've got Vaughan and when you've got Easton, there's always a chance. And right from the outset, all week I've said, I'll take a point. A point would have been a great result yesterday. So I was like, we just need to, if we can limit them, which we've done basically, if we can limit them to not an awful lot, then there's always a chance that we'll sneak something. So I wasn't clambering for anything. Changes coming wouldn't have been terrible. Like I wouldn't have been outraged had it happened. But no, I thought we were in a pretty decent place, up against, like we've said it all along, like the best team in the league. Which, like we were holding our own.
So I felt like it might not have been bang on half-time, it might be certainly very shortly after half-time. To me, it looked like we'd gone to a very clear 4. That Josh Mullen was playing, again, in front of Jordan Doherty after that point. So I think it was certainly 5 minutes into the second half. Alan, do you think that was just a case of trying to, just have a bit more of the ball a little bit further forward? Or was that the earliest signs that, Barry Robson's maybe got a bit more of a kind of gung-ho attitude than maybe we've seen from him previously?
If you'd asked me that at the time, I would have probably said the former. But after the way the rest of the second half went, I would have been like, wow, Bazball's a bit more like Murrayball than we thought. It was, in terms of the way things were going, I kind of agree with what Blair was saying, that, I don't necessarily think they were really battering down the door. They weren't, we weren't really under the cost. I've seen a few Falkirk fans and John McGlynn himself saying, they could easily have been 2 or 3 goals up at half time. I'm like, really? I'm not seeing that. Josh Ray makes one decent save. We probably had as many good chances as they did in the second half, in the first half, which to be honest, I'd forgotten about until I saw the Falkirk TV highlights, because obviously the Wraith TV highlights, due to technical issue, missed some of them. But, so I was watching the back and I'm like, actually, we had more chances than I thought in that first half. And I thought we were really, it was a very even game. And I think Barry Robson probably thought, we can afford to be a bit more attacking, especially on that side, because it was fairly clear they weren't trying to come down that side. You know, they were very much concentrating on going down there, and it was just a case of almost saying, right, well, we can be a bit more aggressive on that right hand side and don't necessarily need to cover across as much as we were doing, because they're not coming down there, so we don't need as much cover over there. We can stay in our natural position and give Stevenson that bit of support on the left hand side, and I think that kind of panned out really in terms of there wasn't as much danger coming down Falkirk's right in the second half. I didn't think as there was in the first.
Yeah, Barry Robson said in his post match, he said it on the radio and then he said it in his Ray TV interview as well, that I'll kind of paraphrase it because I think he was quite careful with his words, but I think basically what he meant was, or what he was hinting at, is too many sides go to Falkirk and give them too much respect.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, that's the problem, because that's what they want almost.
And that's
like the previous league game.
Yeah, like if you sit off them, and I'm going to pick on them. We know that Scott doesn't agree to any what's about him, but Dylan Tate, I think, is the biggest example of this, where if you stand off Falkirk, and listen, we've already said they're very, very good and they can hurt you a lot of different ways, but if you stand off them, Brad Spencer makes Dylan Tate look good.
Yeah,
because Brad Spencer's brilliant. I really think Brad Spencer should probably be Player of the Year or across the whole division.
Mm-hmm.
But when you give them that much space, and Brad Spencer's doing all the stuff that he does, if Dylan Tate's got a bit of time and space as well, he can play 10-yard passes, and there's enough quality around them. But when you go out and you actually start taking it to them, that's where you can then start to find some of these weaknesses. And actually, the point I was going to make there is, I think that's where Barry Robson, at half time, I think is when he basically had that realisation, or at least put it into practice. I don't think we were sitting off them in the first half, but I also don't think we were doing enough to take the game to them. And that's what has changed at half time did. Just moving Josh Mullen up just changed where the game was taking place. Because you're right, Alan. I was exactly the same. That the going to the Falkirk TV highlights just to try and get a little bit more context for the first half. My sort of recollection before I watched the highlights was like the first half was kind of one-way traffic, but it wasn't really, because in terms of the chances, setting the goal aside, there's maybe 3 Falkirk chances and 2 Rovers chances, but the game took place in our half. So they weren't knocking on the door necessarily, but they must have had 60+% possession, and it was broadly in our half. And that, I think, is what changed at half time and made it much more of a game.
See, just to come in there, it's such a cliche, but do you know, just think yesterday they played the occasion rather than the game. And I know it's such an easy thing to say.
True, though.
But with Falkirk, they got their goal. And then other than the transfer that Josh Ray makes a really, really good save at the start of the second half, and you see any criticism for him for the goal completely made up with that save because it's so good. But basically, I think that the major difference from the game back when we played them under Neil Collins, aside from obviously us showing them far too much respect, was the fact that Falkirk had what they needed in this one. Before, it was kind of like, right, let's go and embarrass them. Let's go out and really hammer home that we're a superior team for them. Whereas yesterday, they've got in their mind, like, right, if we get even the 3 points we get over the line, whether it was instruction again from John McGlynn or whether it was otherwise, it's very much a case of they were like, okay, right, we're in control of the game, just limit their chances. We don't need to do anything more. We don't need to rack up a big goal difference because we've got that already. We get 3 points, Livy can't stop us. And that had a huge impact on the way that the game went.
It's not
Yeah.
a terrible. I must admit, I want to give teams a blueprint on how to play against us, but I don't think it's a terrible tactic against us. Because,
Definitely not.
and I said it through the week, that I felt that our biggest chance of getting at them was probably trying to catch them on the break or playing through them. Like, we're no... I mean, I didn't think we were going to have particularly lots of, overlapping around the outside and crosses into the box and stuff. And so if you can get a goal up against us, you basically say, like, are you good enough to break us down? Do you know what I mean? Can you actually play through us? And well, yeah, it was, to give McGlynn his credit, it was working. Like, we had a few chances, but I mean, if we're saying that they didn't have an awful lot of chances, neither did we. Like, it was a game that was kind of being played in the middle of the park.
I don't know, though, that Falkirk, to me, and listen, maybe the stats don't bear this out, but they don't feel like a 1-0 win kind of side. They don't feel like a get a goal up and then slow things down and control it. They feel like their sort of natural place should be what they did to us under Collins in Falkirk, which is get the goal, foot in the neck, get the second goal, get the third goal, and then just pass it around you. And they've done that to a lot of teams this season.
Yeah.
And look, we've seen McGlynn sides where it's get a goal up, kill the game.
Yeah.
But I just don't think this Falkirk side are that.
But when you're this close to the finish line, like,
that's where it
I don't know
gets.
how much of it
That's
is
playing in
just
your head.
psychological.
Yeah, I'd say it was.
They had Stephen McGlynn in the BBC studio, and I went back to listen to it after the game was finished, because they were talking to, I think it was a Falkirk fan they were talking to after the game, and they had obviously planned it in thinking, they'll be basically celebrating.
To be fair, they did say that's what they thought they were going to do.
But Stephen McGlynn actually mentioned something that I didn't really think about, but he mentioned how big a factor could it have been. Now, obviously, the sending off changes things, but he thinks that Cole Donaldson going off at half-time was a big thing for them, because he's your captain, probably the guy that a lot of like Keelan Adams, for instance, still quite a fairly inexperienced and young guy at this. Whilst he's been very good and probably deserves to be the right back of the season for the team of the season sort of thing, he's still somebody that's very inexperienced, especially at winning a league. So I can imagine that if you have a Cole Donaldson next to him, he can talk him through a game, just like Paul Hanlon could do with whoever as well. But I think that Stephen McGlynn actually brought a good point with that. Just the fact that you could see them even when the red card happened, that they were rushing and panicking with things, and you're like, you're 1-0 up. Like, even if it had finished a draw, there's still 4 points. It's not one result needed, it's 2 results needed still. So I was just surprised at how much they kind of panicked at the fact that after the red card, and McGlynn said that as well, just that he thought that they would still have enough to just at least hold out for minimum a point. But they didn't in the end, and that was good for us. But I do think that maybe that psychological thing with Donaldson not being on the park did possibly have a factor in it.
Yeah, let's take the break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the red card, and then I want to come back to this because I think McGlynn's got some questions to answer for how he reacts to the sending off in particular. Yes, so back in a second. Blair,
Yes, mate.
you're a man,
Yes.
and you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
So I mentioned it up top, but really I don't think there's any controversy in saying that this game spins on the actions of Sean Mackie around the hour mark. Now, the first one, I think, it's an example of the way the pattern of the game had changed. I don't think the Rovers would have been breaking in the same kind of manner in the first half the way that it was. But the ball very quickly gets spun out, and Sean Mackie, it's an attempt to get to the ball.
Is it?
Sort of. In the same postcode as Jamie Gullen. Alan, is there an argument that a yellow card he's getting off a little bit lightly with that?
Yes, I think there is. I think. I mean, it's clearly at least a yellow card. Like, there's no, and I don't think I've not seen anyone try and argue that isn't a yellow card in the sense of it shouldn't be, it should be nothing. It's one of those that 10 years ago it's only a free kick. 15 years ago it's probably not even a free kick. Now, with the way players are being protected, as they should be, rightly so, I think we've seen red cards for less than that. I think if there is, I don't want to go into if there's VAR involved, but you can't help but get into that conversation, especially after watching that nonsense at Hampden earlier today. I think VAR takes a while to look at that, and maybe the referee's called over to the screen because it's not. I don't think it's malicious. It's just he's got no control over it. It's wild. He doesn't need to do it. I don't think there's any real danger at that point. It's pretty much on the halfway line, if not in our own half. He doesn't need to go in like that, and he's completely out of control, and he definitely catches Cullen. Like, Cullen's lucky that he sees it coming, rides it a little bit, and he's able to lift his foot up and kind of, he catches him on the ankle and he kind of goes over. But if his foot's planted at that point, that's nasty, like really nasty.
It looks worse on the replay than I thought it did in real time. Because in the ground, I thought, that's a yellow card. It's a bad yellow, if you want to call it that. That's a yellow card. But he's actually, you're right, Gullen is. He's kind of, he's aware of it because he's not really near the ball either. It's actually, the pass is getting away from him, and I think he's almost doing that kind of disappointed, like, slow down kind of like, damn, so close to getting a touch, and then he just gets Mackie flying into him.
Yeah, I mean, to clarify, I'm not actually sitting here saying I think it should be a red card. I think it's borderline, and I don't think he could have really had many complaints if it was.
Yeah,
I think it's reckless. I honestly think it's reckless. Like I know it's not a hard tackle. Like, it's not like he's full flight and absolutely smashed into him, and like it's quick, but it's not that quick. But I'm sorry, Sean Mackie's a professional footballer. How does he miss the ball? The only reason for me he misses the ball is because he's looking at Gullen.
He's more worried about Gullen than he is about the ball. 100% he's more worried about Gullen than he is ball.
If he just actually stays on his feet, he could have kicked the ball over the fence and into the field in Grangemouth. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely no bother whatsoever. I honestly think it's pretty reckless. I think it's not. You'll see a lot worse. You'll see a lot worse tackles than that. I'm not trying to say it's like, like murder, but it is, for me, it's reckless. Like, he's 100% looking at the man and not the ball.
He would have been braver staying on his feet. Like, if he's on his feet, he's a lot braver to stay on his feet than he is by sliding in.
I thought it was actually more, if anything, I'm sure I said it as well in the group chat, it was down to Gullen's sort of, he looks at Mackie coming in for it, and he almost stops a little bit to think.
He slows down.
Right, I can get maybe a foul here, and then as you say, Mackie probably should still go and get the ball, but I do think it's just being clever from Gullen to make sure that he's getting fouled here, because at the end of the day, it's stopping the play and we're getting up the field as well. So I think Gullen's just been really clever ahead of him, to be honest.
Can I tell you who wasn't very clever? Dylan Tate in possession. just aimlessly wandering about in midfield, only to get robbed by Ross Matthews.
How quick though was Ross Matthews to realise that he was doing that? Because he was sleeping, and Ross Matthews, quick as anything, straight on it, bodies him, and then passes it on.
It's Easton as well, actually. Easton puts in the initial kind of tackle.
Yeah.
It springs the ball free, and then Matthews is on it. Massive.
Tate's just not thinking. Like, he
So
thinks
he's not
he's
very good.
basically gotten the better of Easton. He's like, got away with that, and Matthews is in the way. And then obviously, very, very quickly after that, we get the second yell. I don't think there's necessarily as much discussing in this. I believe Derek Ferguson on the radio suggested that the red card overall was harsh.
Nonsense.
No, it wasn't. It
Robbie,
really wasn't.
that's as clear a yellow card as you're going to see.
Yeah.
100%. It's what a tube. Just that's the only way you can really describe it. And I thought it was quite funny. I think it was Henderson has the cheek to go over to the referee saying, "What are you doing?" Like Jordan Doherty just nips it by him, and then Mackie's just a way to clatter him, and you can tell straight away he's getting sent off. He's got his head in his hands, and he knows that it's gone.
Both TV highlights just clear up any doubt about it.
Yeah.
You've got a perfect angle on it.
That's it. He's skipping away. He's down that line. Like, he's got all the time in the world to just take a touch and put a cross in. It's as clear a yellow as you're going to see. There's
It's
just
the angle from where the Wraith fans are. So they've obviously got the camera set up on a tripod right in front of the fans. And it's Mackie's face. As soon as he makes a tackle, you see it all over his face. He's like, shit, I'm in trouble here. Like, this is done. And then he does the whole arguing and, oh, come on, surely no. He knows fine well.
Wanders off one side of the park with his head in his hands and then realises he has to get back on so he can kill so much time.
It's very much it's like the Ralph Wiggum getting his heart broken. It's like you could pinpoint the moment where Falkirk decided, we're going to start time wasting now.
Oh, jeez, I didn't
Falkirk
know.
TV had an interview with Scott Arfield as well after the game.
Oh,
He
they
said
got
something-
in Ross Matthews' pocket, did they?
What I found a little bit surprising with his answer to the question was around the red card. He'd said something about, oh yeah, Sean Mackie will learn for it, he's very inexperienced. I went to check his age because I don't remember him being that young. He's almost 27. And he's been, I get he's not played hundreds of games because he didn't even play that many games for us. But he's been around long enough and at decent enough clubs to know when you're on a booking, you need to watch yourself, but within the space of 3 minutes, he's just went daft again and just been silly and left a leg out. And Doherty's went, thank you very much, and just got over.
And it is the contrast as well of our boys that are on the bookings for the first half. Because the referee had that wee flurry in the first half where he's just
3
like,
minutes.
I'll be one for you and one for you and one for you.
Yeah.
And the three of them just played it out. Like,
Because even within our
Stevenson's
chat,
a perfect example.
Even within our chat, we were like, there's absolutely going to be a red card in this game.
I said it in the morning. I said it in the morning that it was going to be a red card.
I think you're right, though.
Well, McGlynn on the radio called it 2 silly challenges, and I think that's exactly what it is. Like the first one, he just needs to keep his feet. If he doesn't go to ground, the worst case scenario is probably, even if Gullen does get the ball, he's still got to get by Mackie, and he's 60 yards from goal. Like, there's no disaster scenario there. And in the second one, he's defending like someone who's not on a booking. He's doing that thing, and again, you'll know this from yourselves, because this happens from 5-a-sides up, where you just take a stance of, you are not getting past me here. Like, whether I win the ball or not, I'm not letting you down this line. And you can't do that on a booking, because that can happen. And it's a lovely little drop of the shoulder from Doherty, but just totally suckers him in. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Stevenson didn't do after his booking, effectively. He changed the way that he was playing the game. Right, I've been booked. I'm not going to do something as silly as that.
See, to come back to something you alluded to just before we took the break, though, I think John McGlynn's got so many questions to answer, though.
Yes.
Like, why is Luke Graham not getting brought on the pitch immediately for Sean Mackie? Like, you've got all the
100%.
players to be able to work that. A lot of the Falkirk fans reading sort of the posts on Pineball for Laughter, as I do, were sort of asking that question, saying that McGlynn's got equal kind of culpability with it, just because he's not made the change when he needed to.
So this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. So, with the caveat that I might be giving Falkirk too much credit, and I might be too harsh on the Rovers with this, has McGlynn given up too easily with the way that he approaches this last half hour? I mean,
Yes.
Robbie, I'll put that back to you. Given the pattern of the game up till that point, given, for example, how well Calvin Miller was doing on that side, despite the fact they go down to 10 men, has he gone too conservative? Could Falkirk have, tried a little more to actually, he basically doubled down on his, we're 1-0 up, we'll take a 1-0.
Yeah.
Do you think he went to that too early and too much?
I mean, you can see it. I mean, Falkirk were still getting out in the odd occasion, but it definitely was a game-changing moment in terms of the red card. They bring off Scott Arfield for Miller Thompson, who did absolutely nothing. Like, he's just
Awful.
completely anonymous. But yeah, with the whole, you can definitely understand why he's been thinking, right, show this up, try and catch them on the counter. If we can get another goal, great. But by and large, let's just hope, because to be fair, I did say, and this was 5:15 in the afternoon yesterday, I literally put into our group chat, if you're Falkirk, you'd be quite happy to just give free kicks away on out wide. We've done nothing in the air attacking wise. Now, obviously, by that point, Barry Robson had other ideas, and Callum Fordyce becomes the one in, I don't know if it's 1 in 100 or it going up to 1 in 1,000, but by and large, if you're talking about centre backs getting put as centre forwards, generally speaking, doesn't work. Yesterday, the exception. More than happy to say that. But yeah, John McGlynn just felt like he was quite happy just to see the game in terms of what we'd been doing up to the point where we'd had 11 men on the pitch wasn't working. So just kind of continue that on when they had 10 men.
I think he
It's
underestimated
going to
us.
come in a couple of things there, actually. On Sean Mackie, without wanting to kind of dwell too much on the red card, which we've covered kind of quite a lot. In my opinion, if you can't trust one of your defenders to be able to play on a booking, he shouldn't be in the team. So I wouldn't necessarily be saying you should have taken him off at that point, because he should be able to play on with a booking. Our guys did play on with bookings, and they should know how to adjust. And they didn't have actually that much time. It wasn't that long after, and it was just one of those stupid stick your foot out. And on the kind of pattern of play after the red card, to me, I tend to go down the road of giving Barry Robson credit rather than criticising John McGlynn. I think Barry Robson's tactics and his substitutions and the way he changed it absolutely changed the pattern of the game, and didn't give Falkirk they tried to get out, but we were pinning them back so much that when they did
so
get
did
out,
McGlynn's though. I think it goes both ways.
Totally took control of it. Sorry?
I think the substitutions, I think you're 100% right, but I think for every substitution that Robson got right, McGlynn got one wrong. It was like, it was a total juxtaposition in terms of the way that they approached it. I genuinely think he underestimated us. Like,
well, brought on,
see if you've
what's
got
the guy with the stupid man bun?
Aidan Nesbitt.
Aidan Nesbitt.
For
He did
Ethan Ross.
Did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
See if you've got 10 minutes, 100%, do exactly what McGlynn did. You've got 10 minutes, boys. See it out. We don't need to go chasing them. You've got half an hour to play. Like, you are not against arguably the hardest working team in the league at this point, because he will whip them if they run. You are not holding out for half an hour, sitting in and just trying to let us play and see what we can do. It was always going to come apart.
Mm-hmm. And to be crystal clear, Barry Robson is going to get an awful lot of credit for how he managed this second half. We'll talk about that as we go through. I wanted to just kind of pack this McGlynn bit in, but I completely agree with you. I think the Luke Graham one I think that's the fatal flaw, because he can play left back, he can also play centre half. Like, Calvin Miller's very versatile. So probably like left back, generally, that's not a terrible idea. But if you're still at 1-0 with 2 minutes to play, for example, it's going to become a game of balls getting stuck in the box. Luke Graham's going to be 10 times better for that. Even if he's not better, like, he's going to be a better option in for that part, if nothing else. And I don't know if
Allardyce is not a small man. You don't miss him getting pushed up front. We could all see it. John McGlynn could certainly see him going up front. You put on someone that can combat that.
Yeah, it's and just, I mean, in terms of like Aidan Nesbitt, Miller Thompson, I don't know these guys well enough, but I was surprised that he didn't just go like, here's 4 defenders who are just going to defend, 2 guys sitting in front of them, and then just 3 runners. Stick Aguiman on and just right, halfway line, and we are just going to put the ball over the top. And there you go.
You want to press us high, we're going to catch you on the break.
This is it. Yep. You've got half an hour, and it's half an hour sprints against Lewis Stevenson and Paul Hanlon. And it just seems like that's such a, I mean, literally and metaphorically, such a route one tactic to go for. And I think, I don't know if he's if he's overthought it, or if he's, but it just felt like, I don't know, I feel like his attitude was one of, we're 1-0 up, we'll see this out. But his changes didn't seem to follow along with that. So I'm not surprised to see that Falkirk fans are kind of criticising some of his decisions there, because I was wondering about them.
See, to give him his due, ironically, their time wasting's caught them up and it's bit them in the arse, which is great. I love when that happens. But, I mean, they were, 2 minutes away plus injury time from getting over the line? Like, and we'd not really, there wasn't anything where you thought, like, particularly that there was maybe, we'd had shots, but they weren't anything particularly like dangerous, I would say. There wasn't any that you were like, so say for instance, like that Queen's Park game that we lost 4-0 at home. So basically there's the Gullum free kick where Ferry kind of claws it onto the bar. And that's a moment where you think, wow, any other week that's a goal. We didn't have anything like that up until obviously we do score, and then we started scoring for fun.
That means time wasting. I don't want to get on a kind of high horse about this, because there's a time and a place for it. I'm more than happy for the Rovers to do it when the time is right. This is not me saying this is despicable, you shouldn't be doing it. But I do think it sends a message, and it dictates a tone.
Yep.
When you've still got 25 minutes to go, and you're doing the whole, it's really in vogue at the moment, the goalie's got an injury, so we need to take forever doing that, and all of this stuff, you're taking all this time. At a certain point when you're trying to see it out, it's like you're just stretching the afternoon out almost.
Yeah.
And it felt over the top. It felt like, again, as I say, it felt almost like, Falkirk, you could be better than this. I know you're a man down, but you're also top of the league. You know, you're a really good side. And it almost felt like it's the minute Sean Mackie gets sent off, they basically chucked the idea of trying to play the game on its own merits. And it became an exercise of, we are going to hold out for this 1-0.
I actually...
One to exemplify that, though, is Ross McKeever's booking, I think it is. He's up the pitch, right? And we're about to take a throw in. There's zero danger. There is zero danger. The ball's up our end. We're not going to build a quick attack from it. Everyone for them's behind the ball. And he kicks a ball onto the pitch when we're about to take a throw in. And you're
so stupid.
Aye. And it's just a bit like...
So stupid.
So daft.
See, the one thing I would disagree about, like, what you said, Robbie, about they got close and they were only 3 minutes away and stuff. I honestly felt from the second that Mackie went off, because that free kick is the one that goes into the box and it breaks to Vaughan, and he rifles a shot and it kind of hits a body and comes back out or whatever. But it felt like from that moment, it was like, this is coming. Like, this is 100%
I
coming.
agree with that.
Absolutely.
We were just chipping away and chipping away. You then get a ball into the box that Fordyce wins a header for, but nothing comes of it. Gullen gets a ball on the edge of the box, gets a shot away against feet. You're going, by the way, this is 100% coming. Yeah. And McGlynn did nothing. He didn't change it. And it's like, that's where he had all the warnings.
Luke Graham, it would have been would have been better suited to that,
so basic.
Even. But that's it. Like that, the highlights from the red card to the goal, the equaliser, you might as well just rerun that free kick over and over again, because it is just that. It's just it's scrappy guys throwing themselves in front of the ball and kind of getting away with it, but not in a particularly convincing manner. It always ends up back with the Rovers player, always comes back around again.
I think
every single time the ball was away to come in from the right, like, Dillon's away to take the free kick, I'm turning around to my son and saying, here's the goal coming, Paul Hanlon. Other than the fact when Paul Hanlon did actually score, didn't see him.
It's one of those things where I think, Blair, you're absolutely right, in the sense of, like, see, as soon as it hit a certain point in the game, I think it must have been like the 83rd or 84th minute, it just becomes this, like, it's almost like high tide. Like, you just start hearing the crashing of the waves going against a wall, and you're like, okay, this is, like, we've reached a point in the game where it's now in a zone where we're just going to start, like, just chucking everything at it. And obviously, I suppose that lends itself in terms of the credit that Barry Robson gets, because, like Davey says in the post-match interview, he is so bold. He just, no caution when it's like, right, Fordyce, up you go. It's like we're going, 7 up front, he said. Like,
but it's no Murrayball,
but that's what
it's
said.
Clever.
It is.
And I think this is the bit that will get lost, is he makes the change and he brings in Byrne. And it's like, I'm going to take off my marauding midfielder and I'm going to put somebody who'll just sit. That's my bit of protection. Right, on yous go, boys. Bash on, because we're always going to have 2 or 3, and at least one of whom is somebody that's really comfortable in possession. We'll pick up the ball and we'll quite happily take a man on and push the ball left and right. And it was just, because I always used to hate that Murray thing where he made so many changes, and you're like, who's actually, who's there? And then you scored. We've spoken about it before. You score the goal, and you go, "Shit, what did we do?"
Pure numbers.
It's perfectly highlighted by Aidan Marsh's, can I just say, absolutely wonderful interview. Like, I could listen to that all day on repeat. But where Aidan Marsh says that he's like, Dicey's gone up front and he's saying, "Look, I'm going to win the headers. You play off me." So not everyone's not running to try and win the same ball. There was a plan there. It was very much, we'll get the ball long, Fordyce will win the headers, and you look for the knockdowns. And that's where the goal comes from. It worked perfectly.
Could not agree with this more. You're absolutely bang on, because that was the worst thing about the Murray thing, was that he threw everybody up front and nobody had any idea how to get the ball to them. Whereas Sean Byrne
was more of the same.
was brilliant at doing exactly what his job was. So, I mean, it's 10 minutes after the red card, so we have a bit of going at it. And then, 10 minutes. Aidan Connolly comes on for Josh Mullen. That, again, is a really, really good change on that, the way the game had developed, because he's coming on to play that right wing where he's going to get that space in front of Calvin Miller, where he can just turn in and put those crosses into the box. Is he crossing? Is he shooting? Doesn't matter. It's all going in. And then, as you just said, Blair, Sean Byrne coming on for Scott Brown is, again, it's exactly the change that you need. You don't need that all-action Scott Brownness at all, because there is no midfield battle anymore. Falkirk have retreated behind the midfield battle. And Sean Byrne's use of the ball is so good. And, I mean, the one thing is, this is a really simple thing, but you see it quite a lot, where Scott Brown will have the ball at his feet under not very much pressure, maybe just deeper than the centre circle. And he'll look to the right, and he's got Docherty kind of starting to push on, and then he'll have Mullen or Connolly kind of further along, and he plays simple pass. So within 2 touches, the ball is at the winger's feet. Byrne does it in 1. Has the look and goes, right, this is 100%. If we do it in 2 passes, the winger's going to get it. But with Sean Byrne's vision, his ability, 90% I can do this in 1, and he does it, and it makes such a difference, because the defence can't cope as quickly, and that's what he was doing, and it helps massively when the opposition's down to 10 men. But again, it just meant that pattern of the game, when it's attack versus defence, every time they managed to get a body in front of the ball, it only ever got as far back as Sean Byrne again, and then it was just recycle, go again, back to Connolly. And that... I mean, I'm not a particularly optimistic person during a game in particular, but I agree with it. It did. It felt like a goal was coming. And again, that's the other thing for me is I kept looking at my watch and I was like, there's still 20 minutes to go. There's still 15 minutes to go. Like, they're defending for their lives. There's no getting away from it. Time wasting for their lives as if it was already an injury time. And even, they announced the attendance with 10 minutes to go. Man of the match, we still had 5 minutes in normal time to go. It's like they're desperate for this game to be over, and there's a lot of time left to play. Scott, before we get into the goals, we then also had the final sub, which I think is the most out of type for Barry Robson, which is you see Aidan Marsh getting warmed up, and you're like, this is going to be Vaughan coming off. There's a lot of quality there. Maybe that's not what I would do. And then that's not what he does at all. Were you expecting to see Lewis Stevenson's number going up there? And then just give me your thoughts on any of that. Subs, second half, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think in terms of with it being Marsh coming on, I can see what you're saying. I don't think I also was expecting Stevenson to go with his number up on the board. But if you told me Lewis Gibson was coming on, I could have seen that because that's more of an attacking change. And Lewis Gibson, to be fair, when he was playing at Queen of the South, was playing wing back most of his time. So, to be honest, that's the sort of change I was expecting he might make. Was like Stevenson's on a booking, and we probably could do with just putting fresh legs that are just going and driving constantly. Because Lewis Gibson did the same the week before against Ergie, brought plenty of energy, plenty of crosses in the box, got a few shots away. And you're thinking, maybe that's something that we could do with just injecting that little bit of pace again and get us potentially a goal. But with Aidan Marsh coming on, I think he's clearly just thought, right, well, what's to lose now? We're 1-0 down. We're needing to go for fourth because we're that close now. And there's 10 minutes plus probably 5-6 minutes injury time. Like, we have to get a goal. So he's probably just like, well, Marsh is my striker that's on the bench. I've got to bring off somebody. And it is brave. It absolutely is brave to do that. But at the same time, I think it's a far easier decision to make when you've got one less player on the opposition side. I'm not sure he makes that change if it's 11v11. I think he possibly does go for the Gibson for Stevenson if it is. Because then Gibson's got the more whereabout of playing that sort of fullback position. But, yeah. And then obviously, yeah, the fact that it's Marsh that gets the goal. I think that's it kind of tops it off really for Robson, that it's just like, oh, I've made a great change here. But like at the same time, Marsh said it in his interview, and as Alan says, it's a great interview if nobody has for some reason not listened to it yet. Is that he seems to love playing at Falkirk for some reason. Like that's twice he's been there, twice we've won, but it's just like twice he's came on and actually he's made an effect on the game as well, because I without scoring in that first one, I thought he was really good at just occupying defenders, and somebody for like 5'8", I think I've said before, he pits himself about, and he did it even for the penalty as well. He really put himself about, and he managed to sort of push somebody off the ball and then get into the box for that. But yeah, I thought Aidan Marsh played really well, even though he was only on the park for 11, 12 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we don't need to kind of relitigate it. Obviously, we talked about it recently and how he maybe hadn't had as much game time as we want. But it's in the small glimpses that we've had. You know, he does. He looks that he uses his body really well. We'd seen kind of good glimpses from him, and then certainly there was a lot more than just a glimpse yesterday. And I mean, the goal. Sorry, the reason I'm laughing, I'm still thinking about that interview. So it's a phenomenal cross, first of all, from Aidan Connolly. As I said before, those in-swingers, they're very, very difficult to defend. And then you've got star striker Callum Fordyce, who, in the words of Aidan Marsh, leaps like a salmon at the back post. And I've tried so hard at all
Not to put on
times
the accent.
not to do the accent. Yes,
It's impossible. It's genuinely impossible.
so hard. So, but full credit to Callum Fordyce as well, because I think every natural instinct there has got to be just get this on target. Like, so many players, I think, at that point, that close to goal, you're going to try and just get that on target. And instead he goes back across goal, where he's already told Aidan Marsh to be, and Aidan Marsh does what he has to do, just smashes his forehead onto it. The ball careens at the back of the net via Dylan Tate's arm. Even with two goalkeepers can't keep out Aidan Marsh. And well, I mean, we'll all get a shot at talking about this goal, but just the one other thing I want to add to that, just because it's the kind of little stuff that you like to see. Aidan Marsh also the first one to get back to the halfway line as well, because if he's going Tonto, he's clearly just lost his mind very briefly, as you would add it as well. But he's also the first one to be like, nah, we're winning this. Like, this isn't a case of like, you know, brilliant to get back and get the point. There's more to come here. So full credit to him for that as well. Yeah, Robbie, give me your thoughts on the goal.
Oh, it's just glorious. It was just, you've got to give him a huge amount of credit, Aidan Marsh, because he's kept his head. He's not had much game time at all. Strangely enough, I met at the derby his old PE teacher. Really, him and his pal were up just to see that game. And obviously, you can understand that he's probably frustrated that he's not at the game time that he's wanted coming up to Scotland. But it gives him a real opportunity to sort of stake a claim now. And yeah, as you rightfully mentioned, Callum Fordyce does everything right. He has a header against the bar last week against Airdrie, so you can't blame him if he wanted to maybe go to have one on target. Probably not the right angle, but football players are always looking for goals. And yeah, just Marsh really, I love the fact that he describes it as just headbutting the ball. He just goes for it. It's great. And rightfully, as you say, carnage in the away end, and he's just obviously absolutely loving life. Carnage and hospitality as well, I would imagine, Blair.
It was.
Yeah.
It's great fun. I lost a run of myself. I'm not going to lie. I had a great time because we'd sat
not for the last time, I imagine.
No, well, that's the thing. We'd sat the whole game and kind of it was getting frustrating, but we were getting there and we were getting there and we were getting there. But see, like I'm maybe wrong on this. See if Dylan Tate doesn't try to stop it with his arm. Do you think Hogarth saves it? Because I think he takes it away from Hogarth. Like, I
think he'll get close to it, but I think he's almost kind of behind the
line. Behind the line,
I think
possibly.
I think he's too far.
Possibly.
Because obviously he's so focused initially on stopping Fordyce. I think he's diving back across the goal. But I know what you mean. Yeah, Alan, what did you?
Yeah, it was just one of the wonderful moments where you're hoping it's going to come. And like I say, I genuinely thought from the minute the red card happened, it was coming. But the longer it goes on, the more you think, it's going to be one of these days where we're going to do everything but score. And then he pops up with that header, and it's as a football fan, because I mean, I'm not going to lie, in the area where we were the very, very back of the main stand, and obviously completely surrounded by Falkirk fans and family members of the players and all the rest of it, and we got a bit of stick for celebrating, and my argument back was like, come on, it's the 80 whateverth minute. Like, what football fan in their right mind isn't celebrating? And that was just the first one. Like, it went downhill for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was...
Come on, put your top back on.
I agree. Like, not only did I feel it was coming, and I think everyone around us felt it was coming, I actually feel like the Falkirk fans thought it was coming.
Yeah.
They went really flat. They stopped even doing their weird navy blue chant that is the only one that everyone actually joined in with. You know, if you're going to sing about something, why not sing about the colour of your shirt? You know, I mean, they could sing it for us on a home game, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it just felt like it was coming, and I know we've kind of praised him already, but I think we cannot give enough credit to Callum Fordyce, because it wasn't a mindless get your head on the. It was a genuine assist. Like, he knew what he was doing with that header. He could see where Hogarth was, and he knows, I can try and header this into goal. Keeper's there, he's probably going to save it. If I put it across here, there's a chance someone else puts it in. And it genuinely felt like a deliberate act from him, and
it was very good.
Go down as a proper assist. And it was just, it was no more than we deserved at that point, and really, really chuffed for Aidan Marsh. And also, as a kind of a we've talked on this podcast and we've seen a lot of stuff on social media about Barry Robson's reluctance to use substitutions. I don't think anything that happened yesterday is necessarily going to increase Aidan Marsh's chances of starting next week. No. But what it does show Barry Robson is that he can trust the guys on the bench to come on and make a difference. So when guys like Gullin or Vaughan or whoever it is starts to get tired, or if they're not having a great game, Robson knows he can actually go to his bench and bring guys on, and it can change the game for us.
See, just to touch on that, no after effects as well for Jamie Gullin. I know that we spent a lot of time talking about it last week, about how he was absolutely gubbed at the end of that Airdrie game. Looked completely fine yesterday, completely charged a pitch.
Three league goals will do that for you, I think.
That's true.
So very quickly after that, we got the second goal. I mean, just in the interim in that, there is a Falkirk chance. It's basically the one kind of notable chance they get after the red card. But it's exactly what I thought they could have been doing more of. Like, I think the big thing with the last substitution, putting Marsh on for Stevenson, I really think, again, I understand Falkirk that in 10 minutes. It's easier said than done. But there was just none of that running beyond at all. And I think that gives Robson the comfort to go, actually, you know what, I can just finish this game with Hanlon and Docherty as my back too.
Just to touch on that chance, actually, obviously in football nowadays with VAR, there's a lot of preemptive celebrations of goals. I don't think I've ever seen preemptive booing for time wasting, because if you watch the highlights, the Falkirk fans start doing this sort of flappy arm thing that people are like, get him, move up, and then he does that, he rolls over, and then he just lobs the ball, and they're all like, oh. And then we're straight back on the counter. It's great to see. You love it.
And that takes us very nicely into the second goal here. Now, again, the interview that's we've talked about with Aidan Marsh, it's Aidan Marsh and Paul Hanlon. So the goal itself is it Sean Byrne that takes the throw in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Takes the throw. It's not dissimilar to the one for Falkirk's goal, where Vaughan lets it run across his body and then sort of lofts it in for Paul Hanlon. And Hanlon in his interview says, as we were going off the park, Vaughan told me that originally he was going to shoot. It's like, I knew that. He does it every single time. If he's on the park and we've got a throw in on that side, Vaughan is letting it run across his body and he's going to shoot. So I like that came as a surprise to Paul Hanlon. And so he had to, in the moment, or rather, sorry, maybe in the moment he didn't expect the shot. So he was already geared up for the cross that I didn't think there was any chance was going to go. No. But I mean, this is some of the best close control you'll see outside of Serie A from Paul Hanlon here.
Bergkamp-esque.
I mean, who knew big centre halves could do that? It's a tremendous touch just to keep the ball, in his control, and then takes his time to actually just get it out under his feet and stick it under the goalkeeper.
And he's falling over.
Yeah, while he's falling over. And then again, in that interview, he's very relaxed about it. He's like, I felt like I had enough time to just, pick my spot. I mean, fair play, Paul. That's all I can say about that. And then Allan, full head loss in the stand behind the goal.
Oh man. The vlog that the Falkirk fan did from in among all the ultras at their end, fair play to the guy for uploading it. If it was me, I wouldn't have. It would not have been going anywhere near social media. And I've actually seen it on TikTok, and he's got it all over the place. He's quite clearly fancies himself as a kind of some sort of social media guy, but fair play to him for putting it on, because there is not a better view of the Rovers. I hesitate to use the word limbs because it feels like a bit of a kind of wanky social media thing that goes around now, but my God, it was. There were genuinely limbs everywhere. The place went absolutely mental. My 9-year-old son's kind of standing there just going, what the hell is going on here, man? And he was at all of those games last year, but he's obviously just a bit older and kind of appreciating it a bit more now. And it was just like, what the fuck is this? Oh my God, it was brilliant.
It's the wee guy that jumps the barrier just gives way.
It's in his stride though. He's so great.
Before we go on to him, I want to just say actually, what a ball for Lewis Vaughan, by the way. Whether I think I'm going to give him the credit and say he was going to shoot and then realised that the better option was to lob it over, and it was a lovely ball. Completely, the Falkirk defence completely bought it. They just sold the jersey, man. What a lovely ball, and Paul Hanlon. Oh.
See if we're talking about the social media from Falkirk. I love that there's vlogs from one of each of the stands. My favourite, personally, my just humble opinion, is the one that's the section that was next to the away fans, and it's just the sheer number of them going, that's offside! That's offside! Why? It's like the 93rd minute, and you decide, you've defended resolutely all game. Why did you decide at that point, this is going to be a great time to play an offside trap?
It's like that's never 10 yards shout, and it's the same kind of feeling.
That was glorious.
He is definitely onside as well. I went back just to check that. I think I almost would have enjoyed it more had he been offside. But I think
I was expecting a flag. I'm not going to lie. We were obviously at the far side, but we were a wee bit behind play. So at the angle we were at, it did look offside. But you can clearly see in the replay that he's not. His first touch though. I'd missed how good the first touch was, because the second touch is almost him almost falling over the ball. The first touch is so good that it ends up kind of between his legs, and I thought, he's stumbling about a wee bit, but actually the plucking the ball out the air is just beautiful, so good.
Well, the other thing I like about this, while we're on camera angles and social media stuff and all of that, just the kind of aesthetic nature of the main camera that you get in the Rovers highlights, where the players are all running to the fans, but all the fans at the bottom of the stand are running the other direction. See what you like about bamming up the opposition supporters. No issue with it. I just really like they're going in opposite directions, running by the players. Just very, very good. And as you say, the boy that jumps the barrier, it's so good.
Proper Shaun of the Dead, by the way. That is proper
pitch perfect for that.
You've never jumped a fence before in your life.
So good. Brilliant.
There was so many points to pick out from that goal in the celebrations. So I loved the Falkirk TV camera, because that's shot from the main stand, and you just see Barry Robson and Scott Brown. He's halfway over the pitch. He's just going tonto, which fair enough.
I don't know if you also
Josh Ray from the other one as well.
I don't know how quickly, if you've noticed as well from the Falkirk TV highlights, that second goal. Yes, you see Scott Brown and Barry Robson going mental, and obviously the fans in the background. Very quickly, does Falkirk TV go, you've had enough of seeing it, and it goes back to an empty centre circle. There's nobody for about 30 seconds before somebody shows up. And
you still see Davey and Jim in the background giving it.
But you're going, well, this is great. No get to see it then.
It really feels like that camera pan should be accompanied by a wah, 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 wah. It comes back. It's really good.
As well, the ones from within the stands are great as well, because you also get to see the Falkirk fans just going, no, that's it for today. I'm away. It's just straight up on their feet and down the stairs.
The quickest, see for a team that are literally about to win the league, surely, I get that you've lost the game late on, and and we've been saying it's been coming, but surely, it's not a team that's about to get relegated and just walk. The place was empty.
It was a perfect example of a team that have, you know what, Falkirk have without going all kind of crowd wanky attendance FC in it, they do have a very good support for a team of their size. And last year they were getting great crowds in League One. No Falkirk fan is going to sit in there and realistically tell you they've got a 6,800 core support. There's an awful lot of folk who are there for the day out to see them win the league. As soon as they think, we've not got it,
Yeah.
That's going to be.
It's
That's
the
going to
same
be.
with us.
especially,
With the
against
Alloa
Alloa.
game. Yeah, it was exactly the same with us.
Especially Alan in the stand that we were in, like, because that's your people who got their tickets last. So that's naturally you're going to have that.
But they obviously had social media to police with the celebrations. I mean, you can't have Rovers fans celebrating a 90th minute winner.
And certainly not in hospitality, apparently. Yeah, that was. I must admit, that was the bit where it got a wee bit tetchy at the back of the stand after the second goal. Like I said, we were going absolutely tonto, and there was a guy who got a little bit upset with us, but thankfully he was also on his way out the ground at that point. He didn't stay long enough to see the third.
You mentioned in the chat that you bumped into one of the guys from Falkirk Daft, and I know that again it's listening to other podcasts. Like, I generally Falkirk Daft, to be honest, not one that I tend to listen to, but I've been informed before that they've got pensions for clipping bits in terms of what other clubs do in terms of their episodes. I went back and listened to it after. I want to give a specific, very, very specific shout out to the dozen or so Falkirk fans they were saying that were at a wedding yesterday who were apparently going to be huddled round a smartphone. All the best to the happy couple. Enjoy your special day, and always remember that there's always going to be.
Years.
Yeah, I did. I got speaking to the main man from Falkirk Daft, and I have to say, like, and I've told you boys this already, but I don't even watch our post-match interviews. Like, I do not watch opposition podcasts. I just don't. So the guy came over and introduced. He was a lovely guy. He came over and introduced himself. It was really nice. I had to say to him, I was like, man, I've got no idea who you are. Like, I have no clue what's going on here. Like, I've never watched it. I would not have picked you out of a crowd. Like, not
you barely listen to this podcast while we're recording.
That's true, I didn't. Like, I really didn't. I'm not
saying Blair's glazed over.
Yeah.
Give them their salt again.
One thing, just while we're digging out for people and all that kind of stuff, I just want to. I feel like there was a missed opportunity, and probably have to credit. It's Sean Elderbrandt and Josh Heggie are on the Falkirk TV commentary, because it's very reasonable. It's very disappointingly they managed to get quite a neutral end to that. I don't think I would have had the capacity. I think I would have gone full
better than the cameraman anyway.
Full kind of head loss, yeah. With it. But
John McGlynn as well.
I'm not above it. I went specifically to that and was like, right, volume up. I want to hear this, and it's very reasonable. So fair play to them.
It was the guys when they had it, when they were stuck in League One, and it was for years. It was actually, I think they stopped the season before the obviously that's incredible season that they had last year. But the two guys that done it before just used to sound absolutely fizzing when things were going wrong, which was not very good for Falkirk when they were in their peak, like, banter years. But as well, just to say, John McGlynn's, so I gave a wee listen to his sort of post-match interview, very measured in terms of his responses. I felt maybe a couple of bits that you could maybe pick a bit of contention with.
Where is first love?
Generally speaking, yeah. I mean, I'll see if Falkirk had won the league, and I do think, like, next week, obviously, it benefits us, and we'll talk about this in the pre-match podcast that we do for the Morton game. But yeah, with John McGlynn and the rest of them, again, hopefully they can get a result and works in our favour. Yeah. But yeah, there's not any sort of Falkirk have won the league. We were waxing lyrical about them sort of in the pre-match podcast for the Falkirk game, and saying, like, look, they've been the best team in the league, and I think they didn't really show that yesterday. Over the course, I think we've only really seen that in the one game against them so far. But yeah, I mean, it's undeniable, and I think they're in the position that they're in because they deserve it. But just not yesterday.
No, I mean, what they've done this season is they've done this season what Dundee United did last season. They've not necessarily won the head-to-head games against the teams they're competing with, but they've taken care of the rest of the league consistently. It's what Dundee United did last season and what we couldn't do, Arbroath and Airdrie, and it's what Falkirk have done this. You know, I think the only teams that have maybe beaten them are us, Ayr and Livingston. You know, they've taken care of the rest of the teams, and that's how you win a league.
We've not even spoken about the third fucking goal yet.
No, we're not. You are talking like you're wrapping up. And first of all,
I was going to say, just really quickly before we move on, because we are like, if any Falkirk fan is listening to this or watching this and is thinking, I can't believe yours, fuck off. This is no for you. Like, this is not about you. This is a Raid Rovers podcast. It is for our support. If you do like it, away and watch Falkirk Dance.
Be a Blair and didn't bother listening.
Didn't bother. It's not for
Need
you.
more Blair.
Yeah, we've not finished the game. We're only in the 92nd minute.
I know. I really want to talk about this penalty now.
We're 2-1 up. And then it's more really good work from Aidan Marsh. And once again, I'm going to talk about his interview because I really like the way that he frames this. Where, because first of all, he does really well. He has to kind of battle two different guys to kind of nick the ball away, charges into the box, and then as he says to Davey, he says, once I flicked it over that fella, I thought, I'm just going to bang this. And fair play. I think Brad Spencer is that fella.
Yeah.
Haven't checked it. But he does. I mean, it's a brilliant little dink over the top of him. But then he doesn't just bang it. He has a little bit more kind of presence of mind. And even though he's losing his footing, not unlike Paul Hanlon, kind of manages to cut it back. Louis Vaughan's charging in, and Keelan Adams, I think it is, kind of crashes through the back of him. Scott, is this a softish penalty, or is this a Stonewaller?
I think so. When you watch it on Wraith TV, I would say it looks more of a penalty than it is, and then when you watch it on Falkirk TV, I can see why the commentators are like, I'm not so sure, because it does look like Vaughan's kind of half going down already, but at the same time, I think it's actually just clumsy for the defender to even be like right over the top of him, behind him anyway, because it's like you don't need to be doing that. You could be running around the side of him to try and nick the ball, but he's came crashing through the back of him. But I don't think I've seen these. I don't think it's a Stonewaller, and I also don't think it's a dive. So it's basically one of these ones where he's went, well, the ref's got a decision to make. Now, what I was surprised with was how quick the referee just went, nah, penalty. Like that, he was instant. He knew it was a penalty or thought it was a penalty. That's what because at first I was like, oh, that could be a shit. Oh, it's a penalty. That's how quick. That's how quick it was.
He had a very good view about the ref, to be fair, much better than any of the cameras.
Do you think it was swayed by the majority of the people in the crowd still being Rovers fans left?
I agree with everything you said there, Scott. I thought the same thing. Where what I think Vaughan does, and again to go back, we're obviously waxing lyrical about him earlier. I think his awareness is perfect because he knows Keelan Adams is coming in, and I think basically what he does is he just gets himself between Keelan Adams and the ball, and knows that he's coming in because he's actually, before there's any contact, Vaughan's already got his arms out to say, I'm about to be fouled here. And I think the kind of least charitable interpretation would be that he's already on his way down. I'm not so sure that he is. I think a little bit like Gullen, he knows the contact's coming, and so he's made sure he's off the ground effectively. But I also think that almost regardless of what Vaughan does, I think Adams would have fouled him anyway.
Yeah. And
I wonder if that's in the referee's thinking at all. Because as you say, I thought exactly the same thing when I went, that could be a bit. Oh no, he's given it. Perfect.
I'm not actually sure if it was Adams. I thought it was maybe the boy that just came on. Was it Finn Yates?
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's number 2, isn't it?
But yeah.
Yep. I had my numbers mixed up. Which
his also starts with a 2, to be fair.
Yeah, I was only when because Fordyce beats Keelan Adams for the first goal. Yeah. And I was confused. I was like, 20? I thought he was 2. So you're absolutely right. It is Finn Yates.
I would love any Falkirk fan out there to genuinely complain about a player going down too easily under contact. I'm sorry. And I still do. I really like him. But Ethan Ross, are you actually having a laugh? Like, every time there's, like, you could brush his hair and he'd fall over. Like, it's mad.
The thing
but he's so good at it.
Well,
so good at it.
When you see the first goal, and you're like, his balance and his ability to keep his feet is incredible when he wants it to be, which
When
is
he
one
wants
time in 10. Because the rest of the time he's just, I'll take the free kick. Alan, what do you think to the penalty?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, it's none of the camera angles really make it obvious. I think it looks to me like Vaughan just gets in front of him and he catches the back of his leg. It's probably a wee bit similar to the penalty that Bilbao got against Rangers last week, where the guy just gets in front of him, gets a leg across, and takes the contact in the back of it. Vaughan's very good at it. I don't. It's not diving. It's just very clever play from him. I love Lewis Vaughan. He's not afraid of a dive if he thinks it's going to help him. But in this case, I don't think it was a dive. I think he took the challenge knowing where it was coming from, and it was just a clever bit of play and triggered yet another mass exodus from the home end, which was glorious.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't think Yates is anywhere near the ball at any point, which again I think helps make the referee's mind up for him.
Lewis Vaughan's got a chance of controlling the ball and shooting there. Lewis Vaughan's controlling the ball and shooting.
Oh yes,
absolutely. The thing I liked about the exodus at that point is when the penalty's actually being taken, the number of people who don't even turn to watch it. I think I would still, even if I was on my way out, which I mean, it's not really typically in my nature. I tend to be sitting in the misery, but you'd surely still just turn and look over your shoulder just in case your keeper makes a save or something. It's like, nah, he's doing right out. Enjoy it. There's a slight talking point here in terms of who takes the penalty. Vaughan very quickly, as is his right, has the ball in his hands, but Dylan Easton's straight over to him and wins that argument. It's not a fight, it's certainly nowhere near a fight, but there's certainly a frank discussion. And,
I can't remember who it was that was walking Vaughan out the box, but you could visibly see how raging Vaughan was that he wasn't getting to take it. But I can't remember if it was Gullen or who it was, but you could see them literally holding him both shoulders, like, look, listen, he's been the penalty taker the whole season. We get you what a score, but at the end of the day, we still need this to definitely... Not that they didn't trust that Vaughan's not going to score, but it's just the fact that Easton's been taking them all season because Vaughan's been injured.
He's not missed. Easton.
Well, also, he's not missed. Yeah. And also, I think Easton's probably at the back of mind going, I've got a wee sneaky chance to go and boot here if I stick this away. And he's only a goal behind Oakley and Graham. So,
and as I mentioned in the group chat as well, last season, Callum Smith's got 2 goals. We get a penalty, and Vaughan's like, nah, I'm the penalty taker. I'm taking it.
I was quite, not that I'm not sympathetic to him now, but I was quite like, Easton should have let Vaughan take that, was very much my attitude until you said that this morning, Alan. I was like, actually, no, you're absolutely bang on. Vaughan did exactly the same thing to Callum Smith. And
there's no way. If it was the other way around, there's no way Vaughan gives up that
Not a
ball.
chance in hell. Not a chance.
Nice that we've got a squad that are just very, very sort of cut through.
I love that.
Aye.
I'll talk about Vaughan as well.
And as soon as the ball's in the net, there's no...
he was right over, wasn't he?
There's no trudging away or anything like that at all.
Plus, there's also the added benefit that Falkirk fans really dislike Dylan Easton. You can't find a nice word that they've got to say about Dylan Easton, whereas it's quite the opposite for us. I
will say my mate Scott, who I very much enjoyed giving a lift home to from the game yesterday, despite thinking he might have just gone and got the bus instead, but he actually admitted to me before yesterday's game actually that he thought Dylan Easton probably should have been in the team of the year. So I'll give him his due on that one.
I think we'll not dwell on it for too long, but I think the PFA team of the year is a kind of strange beast because it's all voted individually. You don't really get like a kind of...
You're not voting for a team. You're
global
voting for
kind of things. It's very easy for people to miss out who, on balance, should really be in there. And there's other players as well, I think, who are in the same boat. Have we any final thoughts on this game from yesterday? We've done an hour and near enough 40 minutes so far.
It literally just reminded me of last season. Like it was so, and other than that, Airdrie away back in League One days, like that. That's straight away these sort of games. That's what it felt like. How But it wasn't even like we were saying, oh, this is coming, absolutely coming like it was last season where it's like, oh, don't worry, we're 1-0 down in the 89th minute, we're still going to win 2-1. Like, that's how it felt last season. This season, it's just been a case of if we've gone behind, we're like, oh, well, might get a point out of this, but that's about it. But the fact that, as we've said, Aidan Marsh grabbing the ball, it just straight away you were like, well, the boys are up to try and win this now. But and just I was gutted to the fact that I wasn't. I'm home next weekend. I wasn't home this weekend to actually be at the game. But it did look like just absolute scenes at the end, just to be involved in that, and you could just see it was like back to the sort of times I know you see it most of the time, like with Scotland or something. You just see folk grabbing folk that you didn't care who they are, and they're just like holding them and just jumping about. That's what it's all about, though.
See with the socials after the game. Honestly, I swear that Jamie Hogan's got about like 4 twins, because like that guy was everywhere. He's everywhere. It's like a multiverse of Jamie Hogans that we live in, where he just.
In fairness, the guy's 7'4". He's easy to spot.
Getting selfies with Callum Fordyce, but
yeah. A wee shout out again to Barry Robson's interview as well. I loved when he mentioned. Putting Fordyce up front, and you get the goal, and it'd be very easy to say, right, we've got the point now, let's bring him back and defend, and he's like, nah, let's go for it. And you know what, it worked.
But the fact that we've mentioned this already, but the fact that they were not prepared to come at us with 10 men, like there was it wasn't like we'd got a goal, but they were still getting a couple of chances now and again, and we had to be really, they basically had decided they were going to shut up shop, so why no? Like, you literally at that point for me had nothing to lose. Like, really brave though. Like, it's he deserves a hell of a lot of credit. He's been getting a fair amount of stick, I think, despite the results and everything else. There's still a pretty sizable, I think, contingent of Rovers fans that are no convinced. I honestly at this point I don't know what folk need to convince them.
So that's I think yesterday has to be the tipping point for that, because you're right. Yeah. There's been I would call it a scepticism. Yeah, maybe that's kind of almost like despite results. And listen, I've been on that page. I mean, not for the last few weeks. I've been pretty sold on it, but prior to that, there's been an element of certainly. I think the biggest thing has been kind of the absence of Sean Byrne and things along those lines. But I think it's a bit of a, if you can't get behind it after that, like, what are you
waiting for?
When are you going to do it?
So that's as good as it's going to get, within reason.
See, for me, I think it's really good because Barry Robson talks a lot about like work rate, the ethic behind it, and just how much gets put in. But it's so visible to see. The squad deserve a huge amount of credit because earlier on in the season, first half of the season, they were getting absolutely slaughtered for being shite bags. And just the way that things were going. Like we spoke about it a wee bit before in the pre-match, but just they've completely negated that. I think a huge amount of credit to Callum Fordyce as well, because he's came back in and just defensively just adds so much to the back line. Doherty's came in as well, adds a lot to the team.
Outstanding yesterday, by the way.
Yeah. And,
he was on.
It's just so you can often judge how good a game's been by the number of times you watch back the highlights, and particularly ones like that. You just go back and you're just spotting things every single time, and just
even little things like now, obviously the Falkirk players who were being subbed off went off very slowly for a reason. They were time wasting. When Brown and Mullen went off, they both sprinted off. They were like, right, let's get off, let's get these guys on, and let's keep going because we're at them here. They properly sprinted off. They're all really buying into what Barry Robson is telling them to do, and brilliant.
Because I think it would be very easy not to. I think it's the kind of approach that it would be very easy to just go, actually, sod this.
Especially someone like Connolly who's not been getting a game.
Exactly.
And he
partway
worked his
through a
ass off when he came on.
season, contract running down, guy comes in and he's like, right, we're up in the running. You're like, come on, man, it's January already. We've done, but they're clearly bought into it. And
just to add as well, I love the pragmatism from Barry Robson, just to be like, we've not done anything yet, like straight away. And again, we'll talk about that in the sort of pre-match for next week. just a final mention for Paul Hanlon. His stepovers are that good that he can cure injured goalkeepers, because Hogarth just straight on his feet, like absolutely normal. Nothing wrong with him after looking like a career ender there.
Yeah, thank
also
God.
Nice
Okay.
of the Falkirk announcer to play our promotion song for us before the game. The Don't You Know, Pump It Up. That was very good of him to play that for us.
Right, listen, I think that's probably a good chunk of conversation devoted to that. Yeah, to be fair, I'll probably do it again tomorrow. Get another hour and a half squeeze at it. But try and restrain ourselves. And attention now really starts to dial into the, can we call it a playoff showdown? 2 games to go.
It's came down to it is a shootout now for 2 games because we've drawn level. So
level on
it's
points,
a playoff
absolutely.
for the playoff.
Incredible.
It's now
where we were. Absolutely.
Only three goals as well between the two sides. It was at one point, I think, double figures. It's now down to 3. So you're now down to a case of if somebody wins by 1 and whatever, it's now going to really mean something now.
We've actually scored more goals than them now, haven't we? Which is mental.
Yeah. Which
Yeah, well, that's because the gaffer's too busy doing every other job in the world.
Well, he doesn't need
scored the goals they need him to
He's
do.
not doing interviews though.
But yes, so as you say, they've got Falkirk on Friday at Firhill, and then a trip to Livingston, where obviously we've got Morton at home, and then Queen's Park away. So that is shaping up very nicely. And as Robbie's already mentioned, we will cover that later in the week because we've got lives to lead. We're kicking on for 2 hours as it is. So we will be back later in the week. We'll talk about all that, all the permutations and how that feels and where the confidence levels have got to. I think 1 or 2 of us might have tipped beyond the 50% mark on that. So we'll see whether that's held up by Wednesday or Thursday this week. Thank you, guys, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we will see you later in the week to really dig into this playoff shoot. Thank you, and goodbye.